My name is Lyn Rothman, and I'm proud to be an ambassador for the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. Resilience, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness. Back in 1985, I did not have those qualities and desperately needed them. I learned from the example of others who I came to admire and whose courage and fearless determination in fighting HIV, AIDS, in the early days I shall never forget. Larry Kramer, Elton John, Elizabeth Taylor, and Mathilde Krim, to name but a few. I hear the words false positive often these days. They send shivers down my back. My stomach churns and my hands shake uncontrollably, just as they did when, while at the American Embassy in London to receive my green card, I tested positive for AIDS. My US visa was immediately revoked. My trip the following day to visit my son at college in America canceled. I went home alone to tell my husband. "We'll call you in 10 days when we have retested your results," I was told. I'd barely heard of AIDS back then. I knew, though, that it was a death sentence. I was, however, one of the lucky ones. I received a perfunctory notification that my retesting was negative. My visa was returned with no apology. During the 10 days, I wrote to the American ambassador, Ambassador Charles Price, to offer a bed to anyone stranded and in my position who had arrived from the States to receive their green card, planning to return to the US that same night. I didn't receive a response. Incensed, I contacted a friend in Washington who knew the ambassador to find out that whether he'd actually received my letter. He had, but was advised not to respond in case I sued for mental anguish. Fear and shock soon became rage and a resolution to do something to help. I caught the first plane and went to New York. I contacted Larry Kramer, a close friend. What better person? Larry regaled me with horrifying, tragic, and hardly believable stories of daily deaths, lives and families being torn apart, just as we are witnessing today. A day with Larry, and I was full of fire. I then went to see Mathilde Krim, who, along with the unwavering, driven, and eloquent Elizabeth Taylor, had founded the American Foundation for AIDS Research, amfAR. Using your husband's contacts in the film industry, use them. I'm using my husband's and Elizabeth's using hers, was her advice. She gave me the telephone number of someone she'd spoken to in London who was starting an AIDS charity, Marguerite Littman, and recommended that I should meet her. I returned to London, we met, and the AIDS Crisis Trust, the first UK AIDS charity, was born in 1986. Before creating their own charities, both Elizabeth Taylor and Elton John generously agreed to be our patrons, with Princess Diana becoming a loyal supporter and attending all our fundraisers. The early years were tough, very, very tough. Tough emotionally for both Marguerite and me. We had insults thrown at us from so-called friends who I thought would have known better, wondering why we were wasting our time on a bunch of queers. Chairmen of banks and large corporations told me to fundraise for cancer and let the buggers die. There were many times when I almost gave up in those early days, returning home in tears, having sat in hospices, holding skeletal hands and looking into the sunken eyes of sufferers who I knew had only days to live. It really took its toll. We closed the AIDS Crisis Trust after the death of Princess Diana. I was proud and honored to be invited to join the board of the Elton John AIDS Foundation, and subsequently since coming to live in Los Angeles, to be an ambassador for the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. Elizabeth's legacy, of course, is hard to follow. She was unique and had an exceptional way with words, could make herself heard, and used her fame to benefit those who could not speak for themselves. Elizabeth was resilient. I'm in complete awe of the amazing way she morphed from the world's greatest actress to becoming, along with Elton and Larry, the world's greatest activist. We do our very best at the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation to make her proud of us, to carry the message as she did, so that we keep her legacy alive. Were it not for Larry Kramer, my friend and mentor, and for Elton, whose voice and message travels the world, and Elizabeth, whose unwavering drive through thick and thin in her own life never ever gave up the cause to which she dedicated the last years of her life. Their example taught me so much. Were it not for them, I would not have had the tenacity to fight so hard for the rights of those less fortunate and for a cure for HIV/AIDS. Resilience. They all taught me resilience.